Hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kelly Ray. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, like, and send this video out into the YouTube universe. It is a known fact that generosity makes you a happier person, so if you're generous enough to like and subscribe, one, you're going to be happy, and two, I really appreciate it. Before I start this video, because it's going to be a long one, so buckle up, kitty cats, I just really want to talk about this. I'm not sponsored in any way, though I should be. Makeup Geek. Okay? Bomb. That's what I'm wearing today. I mean, you could easily take this palette from work to wedding with a quickness. It is so nice. They're so pigmented. Makeup Geek, holler at your girl. Let's collab. Promote me. Something. Anyways, I just wanted to let you guys know, Makeup Geek is where it's at. It's bomb, and I'd never even started using it. And for you who gave it to me, all the blessings. I love you. So today we're going to get into a place that I moved into that I'm going to call the 6th house. The number 6, I am a big number person. I always have been. Always graduated with over 100 in math. I've always been very into numerology, the zodiac, astrology. It's just, it's been a thing of mine since I was, I don't know, 8 or 9. Anyways, but what I find really interesting about this particular house is the address. I am not going to say it, but when you add the numbers together, it adds up to be a 6. Anyway, so I had known this guy since 8th grade. We'll call him Jake for sake. I had known this person since 8th grade. Not only did we go to school together, we rode BMX together outside of school. We hung out all the time. We partied together. We rode together. I mean, like, we were just together all the time. And day and night, you know, from middle school on. Well, as we got older, we're not in high school anymore, we started getting involved with each other. And I would say after about 4 or 5 months, you know, he would always drive out to my house to see me, and I've always lived in the boonies, and he would drive out to my house to see me, and I think, you know, after a few months, he was just like, you know, hey, I know you're probably tired of driving an hour to work every day, and I'm kind of tired of driving an hour to see you every time I want to see you, so, like, why don't we just move in together? And I was like, I haven't screwed my life up enough times already. Let's go for it. So, I don't know about you guys, but house hunting is literally one of the most stressful things I have ever gone through. Every time. Almost every time. I know it stresses the average person out, like, quite a bit. You know, you're on a time, you know, you have a deadline that you're trying to get into a place. Is it the first of the month better? Is it the last of the month better? It's just a stressful thing. It's a stressful task. But, whew, it stressed both of us out that we got to see a little glimpse of each other that, you know, woo. So, I remember, you know, we would spend every single weekend devoting all of our time to house hunting. And I remember, you know, like, one day came along, it would usually be where, you know, I would be in the driver's seat and he would, like, be online searching for houses and guiding me that way, or he would be in the driver's seat and I would be online guiding him to go whatever house. So I remember, like, one particular weekend, it was really bad weather. It had started, first of all, it was freezing. It was freezing, and we decided to go in his vehicle that had no heat, and it was cold the entire time. So not only am I already stressed out from house hunting, I'm freezing, which is stressing me out even more. I mean, I'm not a like sunshine all the time type of person, but I am the type of person that when it starts sleeting and I'm freezing and I'm stressed out, but I just want to go home and cuddle and just forget about it for the day. So that's what we did. But I remember by the time I had been stressed, or by the time we were done, by the time we were, you know, had called it a day, I was so stressed out that he was like, do you want to grab something to eat before we head back to your place? Even though it's an hour away from my house and the food that we order is going to be freezing, it's going to be frozen by the time we get to my house. Sure. For a long, long time, I never paid attention to red flags. And man, I've been through some stuff because of it. So, I remember that day when we did grab the food, I was so stressed out that I went to take a bite of whatever we had ordered, and I was like so angry that I went to throw the sauce thing out the window, and as anger usually does to one, the sauce backfired on me and it flew all over my hand and arm. Good fun. So, you know, we come back and we're kind of like realizing, okay, well, like we're just getting a little bit too stressed out. Like, you know, we just need to take a chill pill, like calm down, relax. Yes, it's stressful, but like it'll come, and it will, whether you want it or not. When you put that much thinking, effort, and devotion and energy into something, whether it be, you know, for your benefit or not, you will manifest it and it will happen. So, I was like, yeah, you know, I'm tired, I'm cold. I just want to go cuddle up and, you know, pretend today didn't happen. We'll try again tomorrow. So the following day was actually set to be like, I mean, it was still going to be kind of drizzly, but it wasn't going to be as freezing. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with a rainy day. I'm not cool with a sleeting, snowing, icing day. So, especially not in a vehicle that doesn't have heat. So I'm like, okay, cool, we'll go tomorrow, but tomorrow we're taking my car and I'm gonna drive. So he was like, okay, deal. So what do? We get out. And I mean, we get out early. We would start at 9 o'clock in the morning and not stop until 6 o'clock at night. And so, talking about this story. So, again, I just want to mention how the address in equivalence it equals the number 6. I can't stop thinking about that in hindsight. So, we go the following day, and I just remember, like, every time I would get so excited about one house, like, we would get to one house, and then it would just, like, already, like, I would call, can I see this? When can I see this house? Oh, we just rented it out. We just got rid of it. Okay. And I would find another place, and it would be, like, in an ideal area, but we would get to the house, and I was like, I wouldn't let my dog live here. What the funk? So, I was just at that point of just, like, giving up. Like, I was done. I was like, you know what? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, so be it. It's not meant to be. That's the point where I'm at. So, right whenever I give up, and I'm getting ready to turn around and come back home, he's like, hey, why don't we, you know, we have nothing left to lose. Why don't we go check out this one last house? And I'm like, all right, fine, dope, great, whatever. I mean, one last house, what could it be? So we go and check out the one last house. And the one last house, do you know, you don't even understand how many times we passed this house up. We passed it up and passed it up and passed it up. Kept seeing it on the same website, another website, multiple websites, and we just kept passing it up because the pictures didn't know justice. And so I was like, okay, we can go look at it, whatever. I mean, it can't be any worse than some of the trap houses we've been at. So, we go by there, and I remember it was raining. It was a really rainy day when we get to the house, and it was just so cute. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is adorable. Why have we been passing this up? What have we been doing? What have we been looking at? And it's like right in the ideal location. It's 2 minutes from my job at the time. It's, 2 minutes from his job at the time. And it was just like, right, just like every other crazy, paranormal, haunted, whatever, evil story begins. It was perfect. It was in the perfect location, perfect budget, right by both of our jobs. It was the bedrooms were so I start going around the house, and I'm being nosy, so I'm looking in the windows, and I'm like, wow, like, I can see through the windows. It's all hardwood floors, and I ended up finding out that the house was built in like the 1940s, and it still had the original crystal doorknobs. And I was like, that's dope. And so I just remember getting really excited. And so I'm like, yeah, like, call him right now. Call him and see when we can see the inside. So we end up going and meeting with the guy, and a couple of things that I'm going to bring up now, because I really should have paid attention to these before moving into the house. But let's see, what was the first one? Well, we got there wasn't like a whole lot of red flags in the beginning, but I do remember I asked, how long have the previous tenant... Wow. Okay, there was a red flag. The day that we went to go see it, he was sick. He was so sick to his stomach all of a sudden. So nauseous. He was so nauseous when we got inside the house that he had to go out to the backyard because he was scared that he was going to throw up and didn't want to throw up in front of the landlord and his wife. And so I'm basically handling the whole thing. I didn't even think about that. That's crazy. But anyways, so from the road's view, it's, this tiny little like whitish, yellowish house, and it's got, these like blue-green shutters, and it sits up on a hill. It's got a garage and a carport, so his vehicle, my vehicle are covered. You walk in, and there's like the main living room, all hardwood. It did have this strange pull-up on the floor that I never investigated, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. It also had a pull down in the master bedroom closet that led to the attic that we never investigated, and I'm glad we never did. But so you walk into the front room, the first room, and it's all hardwood and big windows. And then I ended up using it as a mudroom. For those of you who don't know what a mudroom is, it's basically where you leave your shoes. A couple chairs were in there. We had a TV in there, a big rug, and that's where you leave your coats, shoes, hats, wherever. And I set it up that way because off to the left was the kitchen, and the kitchen had a booth built into it, like a round booth. Like, it was adorable, and I was like, we're not gonna have to invest in a dining room table? Like, this is dope! This is sick! So every inch I'm going through this house, and I'm seeing like the crystal doorknobs and the hardwood floors, and they were the original hardwood floors. He had just like had them refurnished, and I just remember like, this is adorable. And then you walk into the bathroom, and like, it's an old school type of bathtub, and it has this bowl. The sink is a bowl, And the faucet was just like really old school, but it was just adorable. And then you had one bedroom off to the side, and then the master bedroom was like, here's the bathroom, here's one bedroom, and then here's the other bedroom. And that was the master bedroom. But as you walk through the master bedroom, there's another doorway that leads to the den. And I was like, a den? This is badass. And the den had a closet in it that, I mean, it was a huge walk-in closet. So I was like, storage space out the wang. It was just everything that I wanted, And then you walk through the den to the back door, which led to this giant sunroom, and, you know, just surrounded by glass, and you can see into the backyard. The backyard has one level that goes so far, and then it has a second level, and there's like this stone wall, and in the backyard was this little bench that sat in front of a rose bush. And I'm very partial to roses. They're literally all over my altar. I love roses. Cliche, whatever. Anyhow, this little bench that was sitting right in front of the rose bushes, and it was like a little bench, like meant for our tiny little family to sit on. This huge tree in the backyard that had a wooden ladder set up next to it, and then like a rope hanging down, like there used to be a swing there that we could have easily like changed into a swing, but it was just mesmerizing. It just sucked us in. That's exactly what it did. It sucked us in. So we get to talking with the guy, and he's a really awesome guy. And I remember the second red flag I remember asking him, you know, is the last tenant already moved out? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, how long did they stay here? And he was like, well, the last 4 tenants have only stayed for a year, and then I've had one other tenant that stayed here for, I think, 2 or 3 years. Well, that should have been another sign for me. Like, why are these people only staying for such a short time? What's going on? What's wrong? But people come and go, especially in big cities. People move in and out and constantly moving, and that's just not for me. So I'm not really paying attention to that, and I'm not even paying attention to the fact that my significant other at the time is getting ready to puke all over the backyard. That's how he had, all of a sudden, he was that sick to where he couldn't even talk with, you know, the manager and the property owner and his wife. I was doing all of it because he was so sick. I should have paid, but this is me growing up and figuring out, okay, this is real. So, we ended up like repainting the entire place. It took $3,200 for us to, not including like the deposit, first month's rent and everything, to get everything the way that I wanted it. I had changed this bright orange room to an ashy gray room. I had turned this pea green room into a teal sanctuary, and it was just really coming together. And every time we would revisit the house and put in more work, we would just get so more excited, like we're this much closer to moving in, and da-da-da-da. We're just getting really excited about, you know, this next chapter of our life, as any young couple would be. But we weren't paying attention to all the red flags. So we end up moving in, I think it was around April. We end up signing the lease, and we're like, okay, I'll take it. Beautiful, love it, wow. So we first started by painting, visiting the place, you know, everywhere we could to get it ready. We had like a month before we were actually gonna move in, So I was using all that time to get the place ready, get the bedrooms ready, and just kind of enjoy the quiet time that I got to spend on really remaking this house. So we finally moved in, and nothing really strange at first, except for the fact that, you know, the landlord said that all the previous tenants, you know, they only lived there for a year and no longer. And so I remember the first sign, as usual, would be like our technology would start messing up. The first scary incident that happened that I can recall is we had tucked the baby down. We had settled everything down, shut all the lights off, and we were chilling in the den, watching TV, and we were like, you know, hey, which the den is where we spent most of our time, like, who wants to hang out in the living room when you have a den? And it was nice down there. It was all tile, and it gave you this really, like, cabin-y feel because the walls were made of wood, and it was just really cool. So I remember we were hanging out down there. It had started getting really late, and we were like, okay, you know, like, let's head on to bed. So we started shutting all the lights off, whatever. Well, in the main living room at the front of the house, we had this huge TV, huge. And in the den, we also had a huge TV, but the one in the front room was like, you know, if anybody walks in, they're gonna be like, wow, that's a big TV. So we put this huge TV in the front of the house. Well, we got little one tucked in and started turning out all the lights and got into bed. Thought nothing else of it. Well, in the middle of the night, we wake up to the living room in the living room TV. The TV in the living room is at its maxed volume. It pops on at its maxed volume, and it's on the static thing. It's not on any channel. It's not on anything. It's literally on the freaking Poltergeist, which is weird to say now because I don't know what was really wrong with that house, other than it may have been either it was a portal or it was something was already very, very wrong with it, and other people had experienced it, and I don't know, but it scared the living crap out of us. And the TV is like sharing a wall with the baby, so we rush into there and we turn it off, but like both our hearts are just like racing, and we're looking at each other like, what the hell? Like, and I'm asking him, like, did that TV always do that? And he's like, no. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, it wasn't even on a channel. Did you leave it like that when you turned it off? And he was like, no, it was on the kids' shows when we were all turning out the lights. Like, you know, it was neither one of our faults, but we were just kind of trying to make sense. Like, why did it just pop on at midnight? The loudest that it could be, and on a static channel. It was just weird. So we shut it off. We went back to bed. No more thinking about it. So I would remember I would be like in the den, and I would hear doors closing, and I would know that I was the only one home. So I would be like, oh yeah, you're here. And I would go to greet him, and I would look in the kitchen, and I would look in the living room, and look outside, and nobody had been there. And I remember always texting him and asking him, like, did you just come home? Did you just come here? Are you here? Did you leave? And he's like, no, I haven't been there at all. So that was kind of the second strange thing. Let's see how we went further on. So the backyard, like how I told you, it had 2 levels and this huge tree. We would go out there, you know, because like I said, we moved in, I want to say in March, April. And so whenever it started warming up, I mean, I was spending days and days. I spent like 3 days raking the backyard. No other tenant had spent any time on the house or the backyard. They were literally just living there just to live. But I was really allured by this house. And due to my previous experiences, I was at an age where I couldn't say whether or not, you know, I am a medium, or I'm feeling things that other people don't necessarily feel, or I'm seeing things that other people don't necessarily see. I hadn't gathered that affirmation about myself yet. And so, you know, I remember spending a lot of time in the backyard, spent days raking and raking. I had this huge pile of leaves raked up, and it was probably like 2 or 3 years worth of leaves. Well, we ended up with like a power washer. So after I got all the leaves taken care of, we started mowing. We mowed the first level, and then we would mow the second level. And he took this power washer, and when he took this power washer to power wash off this stone on one side of the backyard, he ended up power washing. It was a whole stone walkway that led all around the backyard to all these gardens and all these bushes and plants and beautiful trees and everything in the backyard. The owner, years and years ago, he even forgot, had built this stone walkway to guide you through the gardens. I mean, it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And, you know, the next day we would go out there and there would be just like these naked ladies that popped up out of nowhere. Beautiful flowers, beautiful rose bush. You know, it was gorgeous. And so we got to one point where we were all in the backyard, you know, just kind of doing our own things or whatever. And I was like, what are these? And along the fence thing was PCP pipe. PCP? What am I thinking? PVC pipe that led around the fence. And I was like, that's weird. What is that? And he was like, it looks like a sprinkler system. And I was like, I wonder if it still works. So I found where it ended, and I walked over there to the little horse head, and whenever I lifted it, all the sprinklers came on and started sprinkling all the garden around surrounding the backyard. And it was just, you know what I'm saying? So like when you have one night is like, you know, creepy and alarming and scary, but then the next day goes something like that, you don't pay attention to, you know, these little red flags. So like I said, it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. We would find baby birds we rescued. We would find, you know, it was like we were constantly finding things in this house, finding that spot in the floor that had tried to been covered up, but you could lift it. And I don't know, maybe it was like an old school heating and air area. I don't know. It blended in with the wood very well. And then in our closet, finding that pull to the attic. We didn't even know we had an attic. And, you know, stuff like that. And so, anyway, time goes on, and I end up going on a ghost tour. I love going on ghost tours. And my friend who happened to know about this particular one, it was for all of downtown, the downtown area. And she was like, hey, do you want to go on this ghost tour with me? Not only is it going to be over all of downtown, but it's going to be we're going to go over the Skirvin as well. And if you guys don't know what the Skirvin is, it is the biggest hotel that's in that particular state. And it is known to be extremely haunted. NBA players come and they would stay in that hotel, and they would be like, I mean, just constant reports of, you know, the bathroom doors would shut, so I would walk into the bathroom to see why it's shutting, and there would be nobody in there. Or, you know, the NBA players would be in the bathroom when they could hear, you know, feet shuffling through the bedroom area. And a lot of them ended up just like sleeping on the couch or would go to another hotel because that place, I mean, was, but I didn't know anything about that when she was like, we'll be going over the Skirvin. So I'm like, the Skirvin? Okay, that sounds dope. Like, let's go. Sick. So, I remember the night I drove over to her house, and this is going to be a whole nother video. If you guys want me to go over the Skirvin night, I absolutely will. That place, whoo! And now that I have the equipment that I have and the technology that I have, and I will hopefully be having more as the channel progresses, I would love to go back to the Skirvin to do my own thing. Because as we were on this ghost tour, you know, like this guy, there's a group of like, I don't know, 20 of us, 25 maybe, that are following around this tour guide that's basically giving us all of the history of all the buildings and areas and everything. But then he's also giving us the history, the haunted history of everything. And I remember when we got to the Skirvin, I was like, girl, how about instead of, you know, sitting here listening? And what was really eerie about that night, remember, it's like April, getting towards like May, in the South. That night, I wore cut-off jeans and a long sleeve shirt that just had a hood on it. I didn't wear a jacket or anything. It was a really nice night, and I was like, what a beautiful night to be downtown and really be going over all this. But when we got to the parking lot of the Skirvin, we were pounded with such freezing wind that I looked over at my friend, and she's like huddled under her hood of her jacket, 'cause she's smart, huddled under her hood, and we're just getting blasted with wind. And every time that the tour guide would bring up the name of the builder, this Skirvin, the one who built the hotel, every time he would mention the name, we would get blasted with this cold, just freezing cold wind. So I'm like, you know, I'd tell her even more, like, hey, how about instead of freezing our nads off out here and listening to this goofball go over all the history, why don't we go inside and find out for ourselves? And she's like, that's not a good, I don't want to go inside. And I'm like, why, dude? This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, let's go inside. And she's like, well, Tony's gonna be here to pick us up, and he won't go inside. He had to do work inside the hotel, and some really bad things happened to him. He won't go inside that hotel. And I'm like, okay, well, he doesn't have to. We can meet him in the parking lot. Like, let's just go inside. Come on. I really want, we're here, you know. And the tour guide is telling us, like, there's $1 million chandelier in the ballroom all the way upstairs. And, like, that's where I wanted to go. But I really just wanted to, like, really feel the inside and, like, you know, get a good feeling of it. And really see, like, is it really what everybody's making it out to be or what? So what do? We end up going inside, and I kid you not, this place is like The Shining meets American Horror Story meets Cecil Hotel meets Queen Mary. This place is freaky. Off to one side, you have the original grandfather bright red piano. The other side, you have this beautiful dining area. But when you first walk in, you walk into this giant bar that looks legit like the bar out of The Shining. And she's like, I mean, we're both like, wow, there's like bellhop things in cases. They're their attire from like the 20s, the 1920s. And I have always been just a huge history buff. So I'm like, this is amazing. And I'm like, let's get on the elevator. And she's like, no, I agreed to come inside. I'm not getting on the elevator. Hell no. And I'm like, girl, please. And what made it like extra like weird was like people, I don't know what event was going on, but there was, everybody that was there was dressed in gowns and tuxedos. So it was like it was just extra eerie. I don't know why, but like everybody that was dressed in just that like fancy attire, and they were all just so elegant and everything. It was like we were going into the past or something. I don't know. So I convinced her to get on the elevator with me, blah, blah, blah. We end up getting really freaked out. I'll go into the Skirvin. If you want me to do a video on the Skirvin Hotel on that particular night, I will give you all the details and I will tell you all the haunted stuff that we ended up passing by even throughout the night. But on to my story about the house. So that night, you know, I had my little ghost hunter, ghost tour, ghost hunter bracelet on. Like, I felt so happy. I was so cool and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, like I said, we had went on that tour and then I ended up going to another tour afterwards before I went home. So I get home and it's about 11:30 and the house is pitch black, kid's in bed, he's in bed, and I'm like, cool, like, I'm trying to be as quiet as I can and everything when I go into the bedroom and I change into my pajamas and I go to the bathroom, which is right next to the baby's room. So I'm trying to be extra quiet. And I go into the bathroom and I like close the door and I sit down to do my business and I look down when the whole bathroom starts flashing bright red. And I'm like, what the and I look up and it is the baby's toothbrush that you have to push a button hard that clicks to make it start flashing. And not only is it flashing, but it's flashing bright red all over the bathroom. I took that toothbrush and I turned it off and I threw it down, and I literally, by this point, like, me and him had kind of started having some issues. So whenever I ran into that room, I mean, I ran into the bedroom. I jumped into that bed, got under the covers, and I held on to him for dear life. So much to where the next day he was like, were you like spooning me last night? And I was like, no, you don't understand. And I told him the whole thing and he was like, really? Do you think that the batteries in the toothbrush could have just... I was like, what do you mean? What are the odds that I get home damn near right at midnight and I sit down in the bathroom right whenever I sat down? That's when, you know, it's had all day and night and all these months to go off, and it right when I go into the bathroom and I sit down, it decides to push its own button and just start flashing. If it had anything to do with the batteries, it wouldn't work at all. It just started flashing bright red. And I mean, I was so scared. I was terrified. Like, even talking about that night, my voice, oh, God. But I'm gonna get through this one. So time goes on, and I remember being on the couch in the den when the next step is, of course, footsteps. So, you know, I would be hanging out in the den, doing my own thing, when clear across the house, the front door was a heavy door, okay? Like I said, the house was built in like the 40s. It was a very heavy door, and it was very hard to open and close, but if it did close, the whole house could hear it close. It was a heavy door. So I remember one afternoon, or evening-ish, I'm sitting on the couch in the den, watching TV, doing my thing, and I can hear the front door close, and I can hear footsteps going into the kitchen, and then back into the living room, and then back into the kitchen. So I'm like, okay, he probably doesn't even know that I'm down here. So I go upstairs and go into the living room, and there's nobody there. And I go into the kitchen, and there's nobody there. And I look outside, and there's nobody there. So once again, I'm like texting him, and I'm asking, like, did you come here? Have you been here? Da 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 da. In time, he starts asking me, hey, did you just walk by? And he, you know, he would come in from outside the house, from like the sunroom. He would come in and he would be like, what were you saying? And I was like, I wasn't saying anything. And he'd be like outside, but still like in the mudroom area, which was also weird because that door was extremely heavy and thick. And he would be like, no, I could swear that, you know, like I could hear you. And, you know, we just started kind of questioning each other. So it got to the point to where I started buying, you know, cleansing stones, more crystals, lighting candles religiously. I got sage, I got Santo Paulo. I mean, I got it all. And I really started like smudging the place, and it just made it way worse. All of a sudden, one day, and I understand like mice get into places and maybe like die, and that might like leave it, but this wasn't it, you guys. Like, this wasn't it. I remember sitting out in the sunroom, and I always liked to sit out there. We all did. We always liked being in the sunroom because you're, you know, guarded, but you still have this beautiful view into the backyard. And so we would hang out there and drink our coffee every mornings. And I remember being out there and just feeling like I'm being watched constantly. So I would go inside, and I ended up being too afraid to go into the garage where I needed to go if our hot water tank, like anything had happened, and I also needed to go in there to do laundry. But I started being so scared to go into the garage because in the garage is next to the sunroom. And, you know, like I said, I started feeling like someone was watching me. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why do I feel like a neighbor or somebody is like watching me? You know, I'm in my own house, I'm in my own space, like I cleansed the house, everything should be good. And at first it was, after I did the first cleansing, like both of us felt really, you know, at ease and everything. But nay. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, maybe I'll just go inside. I don't like this feeling. I don't like feeling like someone's staring at me or like hovering around the area where I just can't be seen. And I hear a loud bang in the garage, which is right next to where I'm sitting, but it's like behind me. So I turn to see, like, what? There's nobody in the garage. I'm out there alone. And it was just this huge wrench had fallen off of the shelf above the washer and dryer, over the washer and dryer, so that's a good 3-4 feet fly onto the concrete ground in the garage. Once again, I ran back inside. So I go back inside, and I'm telling him, I'm like, something's wrong, like something's wrong. I know I cleansed the place and everything, but maybe, you know, maybe it's not, you know, just like something spiritual, like, and we're both starting to agree. And I remember like talking on the phone to one of my friends about like, this place, something's wrong here. Something is wrong with this place. And I would be like explaining the events that had happened because there were so many that, she was starting to get spooked through the phone when all of a sudden we both, me and the person on the phone, hear bang, bang, bang. And she's like, Kelly, get out of there, come over right now. And that's just how it would happen. And I would be like, what? And I would be so scared that it ended up, and then I would open the door, you know, so scared and so convinced like it's paranormal, and it would end up being my significant other. Or, you know, the other times it would end up being my significant other. I would think it was my significant other, and then I would, you know, rush and scramble to make sure that it was my significant other, and there was nobody there. And it was just all around bad. And so I, you know, started looking more into like, why have people only lasted here for this amount of time? It made us, like, for sure, we started fighting a lot of negativity. He started drinking, unfortunately, and I'm not a drinker. I don't like to drink. I can't drink anymore. And, you know, the word alcohol, I can't stress enough, is derived from the Hebrew word alcohol, which means a soul and body eating spirit. And so you drink it, and that's what it does to you. And so he started drinking, which is perfectly legal and fine, and everybody, if that's your thing, you do you, but it turned him even more negative. So not only did I have to fear the house, but I had to fear him when he started drinking. And it was just spiraling out of control so fast. And you know, I remember we went on vacation by July or August. We had planned this vacation for a very long time. We had set back money for this vacation for a very long time. It was like months worth of planning this perfect vacation. And when we came back from the vacation, not only were there objects in the house that were either missing or thrown all over the place, there were things completely gone from the backyard that we'll never get back again. I had certain things that my grandma had given me that I know I didn't leave anywhere but in a safe spot at that house. And now, to this day, I have no earthly idea what happened to them. And they were lanterns. They were glass, old school, you know, antique type oil lanterns. And they meant the world to me. And so I found one of those shattered, and I blamed him, and he's like, I haven't been anywhere near those. I haven't been anywhere near those. I didn't even know you had those. Like, you know, don't blame me. I'll admit whenever I broke, you know, like, I broke your wine glass that one night or whatever, but I didn't break those. I haven't touched those, and I didn't even know you had those. And then we go into the backyard to find that the power washer that we're finding all these, like, secret things about the house, the power washer is gone, and that's not a cheap item to buy. So that's completely gone, along with multiple items from inside the house. The house was completely locked. So you can explain things in the backyard going missing, you know, because we were in the city, and if anyone had seen that our vehicles were gone for, you know, days on end, they could have gone back there and taken it. But you can't explain the whole house being locked, things being shattered all over the house, and things being completely missing. And to this day, I still don't know what happened to them. And so, I mean, I had no explanation for it. And I called the landlord over one morning, because I go outside into the sunroom once again to sit around and drink my coffee, when I realize there's this just foul smell. And like I said, I understand maybe mice get places and die, and, you know, mice are around, and that can make you feel like something's in the house, something's looking at, but I'm telling you guys, like, this was not it. I'm telling you guys, this didn't smell like a mouse. It was the worst smell, to where neither one of us could handle it. We tried to go inside, and the whole inside of the house smelled like it. And all I can say is that it smelled like dead something. It was the foulest smell ever. So we called the landlord over, and we're like, what could this possibly be? It just came out of nowhere. We've gone the whole summer without this being a problem. We're at, like, September by now. You know, what is this? And the landlord can't explain it. Well, while the landlord's there, I go ahead and I start telling, like, well, I'm not telling him, like, you know, hey, my TV is just deciding to turn on at either midnight or 3 a.m., you know, once a week at the loudest volume and on a static channel that I didn't even know existed. And we're also finding things shattered and missing inside of our house, and I'm kind of losing my mind. I'm cleansing like a, you know, like crazy. And, but I did start asking him, you know, a little bit of history about the house, just trying to see, like, you know, what it was like for them whenever they lived there. And I just remember him saying, because I remember bringing up, you know, it's causing kind of friction and problems between, you know, me and him. And he was like, you know, when we built this house, or not built this house, when we, you know, bought this house and, you know, we owned it and everything, we stayed here, you know, for about 5 or 6 years, and him and his wife, I just remember him saying, yeah, we had a really bad problem in this house as well. We started really going at it. We almost got divorced in this house, actually. And I held on to that. I held on to that bit of information because I knew at the time that these things thrive off of energy, whether it be negative energy, fear, or bickering, fighting, anything to get you alone so that you're even more scared, and just playing tricks on the mind. And so I just remembered him saying, yeah, when we were here towards the end, we almost got divorced in this house. And it's like, and I was just like, wow, that's crazy, because, you know, that's starting to feel like here. And so we ended up going our separate ways. And I can't tell if it was because of the house or just because of people that we are. But at the end, I remember talking to the landlord and his wife some more. And he told me, you know, he had to go into the attic to repair some plumbing problems, which was really weird. I was like, why would you have to go into the attic when all the plumbing is in the floors and in the backyard? But whatever. He said he had to go into the attic, so we let him into our attic, and he was in our attic for hours. I don't know why to this day, but he was in our attic for hours. And when he came down, you know, he had gone behind my back and kind of like told him, like, hey, we're thinking about going separate ways and da-da-da-da. So I wonder if he was going up into the attic to get, you know, something that belonged to him, or what he was doing up there. I don't know what he was doing up in the attic. But when he came down, I remember him saying, you know, because I started talking about weird things happening around the house to the landlord, and he was like, yeah, a couple of tenants before you have brought that up, and when me and my wife were here, not only did we almost get divorced, but just really funny things were happening around the house. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. And he left. And it was just so disturbing to me that, like, you knew about this the entire time. Not only did you know about it personally, but you've had tenant after tenant tell you these things are going on, and you're still, like, I understand everybody has to make their money and everything, but man, get a professional in there. Find out what exactly it is about that house, because the neighbors didn't seem to have any problems. There was, you know, it was crazy. And it's like, that's whenever that is the house that, for one, it was like my first, like, big rental house that I had spent all this money in refurnishing and repainting and retiling. We retiled the whole garage, and, you know, just all this money and energy, you know, into this house. But I just remember, you know, once I got out of there, it was, I didn't care where I went. It was just a relief to get out of there. Every day that I got home, I dreaded going inside that house. I know he felt it too. You know, the baby acting weird, staring off into different directions, talking and making up. It was just too much. But when he, you know, basically came on that last day to confirm, yeah, I experienced it, and so has everybody else before you. Good luck. See you tomorrow. I just remember that just chilling me to my core, and I knew something was wrong with that house, and I didn't care where I had to go, who I had to be with. I had to get myself, and I had to get out of that house. And once I did, I mean, it was hard for a long time, but I eventually, you know, I just felt this sense of pressure and dread and sadness, constant depression and fighting and negativity just lifted. And it wasn't just the relationship. We continued talking, you know, we continued, you know, trying to be, you know, cordial with each other throughout it. But getting out of that house, you know, every day. And another thing, when I was living there, I got into a car accident that was completely not my fault. I was 2 miles away from the house, not even. Got into the worst accident, the only accident of my entire life. It totaled my car. I was left in that house, severe concussion, cannot move, on bed rest for weeks with no vehicle, so I was stuck there. I mean, and I guess it was the worst. It was the worst. And, you know, I just really want to, you know, I would love to have some feedback of what you guys think, hearing my story about the house. And, you know, what does it seem like spiritual activity? It didn't seem like regular spiritual activity. You know, like I said, I went over my sister's apartment. Now that was spiritual activity. It wasn't a good spirit. It wasn't a happy spirit. It wasn't a friendly ghost, but it was ghostly. It was haunted, you know, by a deceased person. Where this particular house, with the electronics going crazy, the hate, the anger, the TV blasting and scaring us, my most important valuables, it was very targeting. Like I was a target. We were targets in that house. And, you know, what do you guys think? You know, it sounds very, now that I retell the story, it sounds very poltergeist activity, and, you know, possibly a portal when I look back. And, you know, maybe it was just an open, especially with that sunroom, it's all encased in glass, and, you know, glass can be a portal, water can be a portal, you know, mirrors can be a portal. And I just wonder, like, what was wrong? What was that was so wrong with that house that literally chased me out of there? No matter where I went, I had to get out of that house. Oh, crazy. But like I said, I'm out of there now, and I really just wanted to make this video to let you guys know, you know, even if it is, you know, within the budget and it's in the perfect location and it's just gorgeous and beautiful and alluring, you guys, like, keep your eyes open, keep your minds open, because even the most beautiful things have a very, very dark side. So let me know what you guys think. I really love you guys. Thank you again for this opportunity. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, like, and tell me if you want me to do a video of the Skirvin Hotel. I would love to, and I would love to go back and revisit the hotel with the equipment that I have now. So, I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Have a good day.